about a month ago, I asked Anqi to dig into this topic a little bit, basically learning how we can apply this very innovative and very convenient interface to expedite our model sharing. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Gradio, it was developed relatively recent, probably maybe a year ago. So when I knew about Gradio, Gradio has not been implemented in Hugging Face, but now it is integral part of that. And following Anqi's presentation, we'll be able to learn how we could use this interface to quickly sharing our model with everyone, sharing on the cloud with low code or sometimes really minimal code, in comparison to learning Flask or other APIs and modules to build the web interface from the scratch. And I know that Charles had these experiences. He must have written probably hundreds of lines of code to implement the web interface. But Gradio, you usually write a few lines of code to do the same. So without further ado, let's welcome Anqi to give us her presentation.
Okay, thank you. So hi everyone, good evening, and thank you all for joining this presentation on Gradio. So today's topic is getting started with Gradio and building intuitive interface for machine learning models. And in this presentation, I will cover some basic knowledge of Gradio, including what it is, how to install it, how to define input output, etc. And hope by the end of the presentation, you will have some knowledge of how Gradio works and how to use to create a powerful machine learning interface that can be easily shared with others. So let's dive in and start with agenda for today. So first, I will talking about some background information about what is Gradio and what's the advantage and disadvantage, and as well as other machine learning prototyping. And then I will talking some functionalities and give you several demo of Gradio. And finally, I will show the 3 deployment way of Gradio. So let's get started with what is Gradio. So Gradio is an open source Python library that allows machine learning practitioners to quickly create customized interface for their model. And it provides an easy-to-use web interface that allows users to interact with the model and get real-time practice based on their input. And the main advantage of Gradio is that it allows machine learning practitioners to easily create and share interact applications that showcase their model and without requiring extensive web development skill. This can be especially useful for showing case machine learning model to stakeholders or for building applications that can be used for those non-technical users. And additionally, Gradio supports a wide range of input and output, image, audio, video, and which is super flexible. And also I will talking more detail about it later. So some pros of Gradio is definitely offers several customized UI component that's optimized for machine learning model. For example, Gradio provides easy to use drag and drop image classification. And it's just highly optimized for user. And there are still some disadvantage of Gradio. Although like Gradio, it has a good documentation on the official website, it's hard to find information and like example about specific feature that it offers. And Gradio, because like Gradio is like relatively new, so it has smaller community than other package. So it's just make it harder to find research about it. And Gradio is specific toward building UIs for machine learning models, and less toward dashboard. So now I will go through, like, when you type machine learning prototype or like machine learning package, all the thing, there will be a bunch of package shows up, like just like Flask, Django, Streamlit, Dash, and like all other things. So I will just talking briefly about like what all these are used and what's the advantage and disadvantage of them. And you can just choose the one that fit you best. And so just start with Dash. Dash is also an open source Python library that used for creating reactive web application. It is a user interface library and a powerful tool to building analytical web application. And the advantage of Dash is it can be used in various domains such as data exploration, data analysis, modeling, visualization, instrument control, also reporting, and it's also simple to use. And just like Gradio can just instill directly through pipe. But different from Gradio is that it can be used with R, Julia, Jupyter, and the Dash application are reactive, and which is also more customizable than Streamlit, and also it offers better performance. So some disadvantage of Dash is that it's more focused on entrepreneur market and does not including all of its available features in open source version. And Dash is more versatile than Gradio or Streamlit, and you have to write more code to create simple web application compared to other framework. And the next one is Streamlit. So Streamlit is another popular tool that is used to create user interface. And it's an open source Python library that used to build powerful customized web application for data science and machine learning. And Streamlit is compatible with several major libraries and frameworks such as OpenCV and etc. And just like Gradio, it's also like popular and used among other big industrial leaders such as Uber, Google X. And some advantage of it is it's accessible for everyone who understands Python, and there are no requirement for like knowledge of HTML and CSS, and it has a wide range of UI components, and it covers almost every UI component such as checkbox, sliders, radio buttons, file updates, and moreover, the components are also very easy to use, and it can support multiple interaction visualization library. Some cons of Streamlit is that although it's not difficult, Streamlit do require some time to learn its own syntax, and it's not like flexible than others, and it's only based on Python and offer limited set of values, and does not integrate with Python notebook. And there is also a data upload limits, and it's also limit support for video and annotation. And the final one is Flask. Flask is a Python website framework used to build also build a web application, and it's offer several modules for web development that make the developer's job easier. And Flask also has resources to deploy a machine learning model, though many front-end work must to be done by the developers. And this means that as a data science, you must comfortable with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And advantage of this Flask is like the most flexible one. You can like build everything from scratch according to your own requirement. However, it do need a intermediate knowledge about Python as well as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So like hope all this information can help you to find the right one that you need. So let's back to Gradio. So at the first beginning, how to install Gradio? Which first, you must make sure Python is installed in your computer and you need an environment to set up Ray. And pep is just a package installer for Python, and it is the easiest way to install Gradio. So to install Gradio, simply just open a terminal and type in pipe install Gradio, which I typed there in a pink color. And then this will download and install the necessary dependencies for Gradio. And once you install Gradio, the next step is putting in a Python script. So to do this, just add the line input Gradio as gray to top of your script, which I already put there in green in the bottom of this slide. And here is an example. I use a super simple Hello World one. I think like most of you may know it. So for line 1, just input Gradio and then define all the thing you need to put in there, and then just put interface equals to Gradio interface. And I set up the input as a text and also output is a text. And then just launch this code. And there are both local URL and public URL will show up. But for specifically, if you want to have a public URL, you need to put share equals true in the launch definition. And when I click the local URL, and this shows up, and on the left of the top picture is the input of this simple model, and the right part is the output. So when I put input world in it and click submit, you will have hello world in the output.
So Anqi, could you so I have a quick question. Sure. Probably other benefit is from the question as well. So if you go back to the previous slide, we'll show there are two. One is the local URL, the other is the public URL. Could you explain what the usefulness of public URL? Would that allow others to access your computer directly?
Sure. So you can share this public URL and like everyone just can use it, but it has a I think it's 32 hours limit time that you can just access to this code, right? Like the link.
Okay. Have you tested before with others to see how that works? So it'll be interesting later on if we could test it out to see.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because that one is going to so I don't know whether it's password protected or not, because there is a potential risk if you share your computer. Basically, you use the computer as a server so that other can access through the HTTP request. So I don't know what kind of risk there. I presumably they've done a good job of minimizing the risk, but it's maybe it'd be great if you could look into that to see how people operationalize that public link.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so now I will just so defining input and output types is a function that Gradio offer, and there are several types of input that Gradio support, including text input, image input, audio input, and like more. So to define input type for your interface, you can use the gray input module. For example, if you want to create a text input, you can use the gray input text function. And this function takes several option arguments, including label for the inputs and default value. And it's also pretty much the same for the output. It have like a bunch of options you can define. And when you use the gray output image, it will give you an image output. And also you can create a label for it and default value. So I gave 3 examples here. The first one is a text input and text output, and the second one is a image input and also image outputs. Also for the third one is a file inputs and a text output, and you can pretty much do whatever you want, but like all the inputs or output type are not limited to this. If you want to know more, just go to the homepage of Gradio, and there is a doc on the index. And when you click that, it will give you all the components and building demo. And it also will give you an example of like how each are work and how to use them. So next is customizing the appearance. And Gradio allows people to customize the appearance of interface by using CSS style sheets. You can define your own style sheet and apply them to your interface by passing the path to the style sheet as an argument to the gray interface constructor. And I put a code picture below that you can see. Under CSS equals path to my style sheet. And in the style sheet, you can define rules that modify the appearance of a bunch of elements, including the output and input field, the button, the title, and also you can change the color of the background. And yes, so before doing like before learning more advanced feature of Gradio, I do want to have a demo of Gradio. So can you guys see it? Okay, so in this demo, I use the Microsoft Beta as my machine learning model in there, and I define my title as 22K image classification, and also the description for this machine learning model. And also you can see I put some picture as example into this demo already. And also I put share equals true, which will give you the public URL. So when I run this code, should give me a link in a second. Yep, this is the local one and this is public one. So let's try local one first. So I just put a bunch of pictures that I took recently, and this is my cat Hexa, which you can see that in the input box, you can both drop an image here or click to upload an image. And let's try just simply by click submit. You can get a result. And it's not accurate because my cat is rural breed, but it's all depends on your machine learning model. So this picture I took weeks ago in school very well. And let's try this. Well, it's like pretty high percentage. It's a very well. And I think it's super fun and super easy to like show your machine learning model to those who maybe don't have a lot of background. And yeah, and also you can just put multiple input and output in this, which I will talk about later.
So Anqi, could you go back to the demonstration here? Your Python code, please.
Okay.
So here I just want to say, because not everyone are on the same page. Some have already learned a lot about deep learning, the Hugging Face. So this seems to be a pretty straightforward. Others who haven't learned about this could be puzzled. So just allow me to quickly explain what they are in some detail. So we make sure that everyone is on the same page. So here, as Anqi demonstrated, she applied a model from Hugging Face. So if you see the second line is called from transformers import pipeline. So pipeline is a very important function in Hugging Face. And Hugging Face is an open source platform or ecosystem hosting thousands or tens of thousands of models, including machine learning models, deep learning models, doing a variety of different tasks. So a pipeline basically just call the model as it is without any modification. And then, so Anqi bring the pipeline, and in the pipeline, she mentioned she's going to do an image classification task, which basically is using the pre-trained model hosted in Hugging Face to classify images into different labels. Maybe one image is about fairy whale, another is about the Egyptian cat, really depending on how many categories or labels are there in the model that is pre-trained. And then she specifically mentioned that she's going to use the model created by Microsoft. Is I don't know exactly that model, but basically is a model pre-trained by Microsoft to do this kind of image classification task. And then what she did is she used the interface from the Gradio, and especially using the function called from pipeline, which is basically you can think about as a link to the pipeline she already defined. And basically she borrowed from Hugging Face. And then the rest could be self-explanatory except the examples. So if you see that from pipeline, she in a list identified a number of images. So I guess those images would show up in the Gradio interface, basically giving people idea that you can upload your images and the machine is going to classify for you. So that is a brief interpretation of what she did, and hopefully now we could be all on the same page. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. An.
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now I will talking about more advanced feature of Gradio. First one is customized input and output types. Second one is lab updates, and third one is multiple input and outputs. So the first one, customized input and outputs. Gradio support customized input and output type, which allows you to create your own customized interface for your machine learning models. And to create a customized input and output types, you need to define a class that implements the Gradio interface interface. And here is an example of a customized interface validge that allows user to draw on canvas. And so this code creates an interface with customized input types, allows user to draw on a canvas, and the drawing board class define method for getting the default value of the input, pre-processing the data, and then converting the adage to a dictionary that can be sent over the network. And
so Anqi, could you explain a bit more? I'm kind of a little bit lost here. So talk about drawing board. It is a way that you pre-process the data, or you are creating like the overlook of the interface?
Yeah, I'm creating an overlook of the interface, and it has a pretty similar one on the homepage of Gradio. It's like not super similar, but like if you do that, you can have a drawing board here, and you can just draw it here, and it will give you some result.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's, if you could go back to your code, maybe briefly explain what you did there. I saw that you first define a input shape. Presumably that is the shape of the drawing board, right? 256 by 256.
It's the size of it.
And you have channel equals 3. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the definition for image, the representation of image in the in computer, this is called the RGB image. Basically, RGB image takes the width and height, all in the unit of pixels. So basically, she defined 256 pixels as the height and 256 as the width. But also, she has the third dimension there, 3. So 3 means the number of channels or depth, denoting the RGB, the red, green, blue color of the image. So therefore, she has the 3 there. And then she defined the shape of the canvas. And then the default value, I guess, is that you are drawing the whiteboard, right? So you set the shape of basically the np.zeros means that you are creating a NumPy array with all zeros, having the shape of 256, 256, and 3. And then the D type equals NumPy unit 8 is just a way to make the zeros not occupying too much space, because the n directional integer 8 is very small in the data type. And after that, you pre-process your data, the data as type. So basically, you convert whatever you input data into the NumPy n directional integer 8 data. And after that, you also have a function called the toDictionary. I guess this is converting that into, converting that into a dictionary, a type and shape. Okay. And after that, you use the inputs. So inputs equals drawing board. So
and
here,
output should be a text.
Output should be text.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, presumably, I guess the drawing board has a default value, right? If no one is drawing on the board, it's going to take just a whiteboard because it's defined as the a NumPy array of all zeros, right? But if someone draw on the board, it's going to convert that to the new input. And then basically the input is going to be an image with something, and then she's going to use the model to predict what is written on that whiteboard. Right? Okay, great. Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful. It's at least helpful to me to understand your code when I'm reading through it.
Yeah, I never took like coding lessons, so it's like kind of self-learning. I just don't know how to explain all of those things.
Right. It takes a lot of time, right? But your best friend for now is the ChatGPT, right? No, you can put the code into ChatGPT and then ask it to make comment on it line by line and explain that to you, so you will understand it, right? So now, and presumably ChatGPT is going to be better than me interpreting the code.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So next feature is live updates. And for this one, just simply, so live updates can just allow you to update the output of your model in a real time as the user interact with the input phase. So to enable this function, just put live equals true at the end of the interface. And so it's just, when you put it there, it means that the output will update in a real time as the user type in the input field. So you don't just need to like every time you put something in there and you click submit and it will give you the output. So the last one is multiple inputs and outputs. So for this one, you can create an interface with more complex input and output configurations. To create an interface with multiple inputs and outputs, you can pass a list of inputs and outputs type as value for the inputs and outputs parameter. So in this case, I put input equals text and checkbox, and output is a text and text. So if you run this code, it will give you one text input, one checkbox input, and two text outputs.
So Anqi, could you give us an example of how you apply this text checkbox?
Yeah, so let me try. Put it here.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. No, I'm not asking you to code now. Just some.
Oh, okay.
Some intuitions.
I don't have like it. It maybe like it should be have one on Gradio actually. Gradio actually gives a lot of examples. Let me try to find one.
Yeah.
Remember there's something.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
No. No. Maybe. No. I'm thinking that no. To give a quick example, I'm thinking of. No. Consider. For example, you put your name there. So basically, the input has to match the function, right? Whatever that input is has to match the function. The my function is going to ask for, in this case, two inputs. One is a text input. The other is a Boolean operation type of input. It's a yes or no, true or false. Okay. And in this case, for example, no, my function asks for how I'm going to greet you, right, with your name. So your name serves as a text. And then you, in the function, you may have an if-else statement, right? If it is, say, in the classroom, you say, no, welcome to my classroom, Anqi, right? And then else would be somewhere else, not in the classroom. And then it's greet you differently. Maybe, no, good afternoon, Anqi, rather than welcome to the classroom, right? So in this case, you have an input of a text, which is your name. And also you have a checkbox denoting whether you are in the classroom or not. And then depending on both conditions, is going to give you outputs. Here, well, the outputs is only the full text, but maybe there could be some other secondary outputs there. So basically, in that case, you would have two inputs and two outputs. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So this is pretty much the last part of this presentation. is different deployment of Gradio. So, so for local deployment, you can just deploy Gradio interface on your local machine by running the interface script on computer, just like my demo before. And to do this, you just need to do the necessary dependence installed, including Gradio and all other libraries that your interface script depends on. Once you install the dependence, you can run the interface script from the command line from your Python IDE. And so for the server development, it can allow you run your interface accessible over the internet. And you will need to have a server with necessary software installed. Just for example, like a patch and a Python environment with necessary dependence installed. And once you set up your server environment, you can just copy your interface script to the server and configure your web server to serve the interface. And just this one can be super useful if you want your interface available to a wider audience. So like if you want to more people to use it, use the server deployment. And the third one is cloud deployment, which you can deploy your Gradio interface on cloud platform like Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Web Service. And all this platform provide pre-configured environment that makes it easy to deploy and manage web application, including Gradio interface for sure. So to deploy the Gradio interface on cloud platform, you will typically need to just create an account on the platform you want to deploy and configure your application setting and deploy your interface using platform tool and service. So yeah, so in conclusion, Gradio is super easy to use. You just need to add a couple of lines to your code. You can just have a interface for it, and it's also flexible for you can just customize all the input and output and even some appearance of your interface. Also, it can have live updates, make sure that you can share your interface to well audience. And because all the deployment option, it makes super flexible to share your prototyping. And that's all for today. And this is all the reference that I use. And thank you all.
Great. Thank you, Anqi, for your very exciting presentation. I think we all learned a lot. So, and especially since you haven't learned much coding, it must be a great challenge for you to learn Gradio, because you can't really work. Gradio is not a click and run type of interface, and you do have to code, although not extensively, but definitely code is a must learn to implement Gradio. So great that you explored the coding, and hopefully you has the appetite to learn more about coding. Okay, so let's open up to questions. Any question, anything that you need clarification or further information, or what you see that could be potentially using Gradio to facilitate your own model implementation or model sharing. Any question or any thoughts? So Charles mentioned, Charles, do you want to just ask, unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, my just quick question. Are the deployment options that you listed, are they mostly free, or do they start charging after you deploy a certain number of models?
So as I know, like most of them are free, and I actually never tried the third one. So if you want to try, maybe you can tell us.
All right, thank you.
So basically, if you use your own machine, and of course it's free because machine serve as the server. And then if you use the servers you have access to, and then maybe if you could use the server for free, then it's free. But if you deploy on the cloud, most likely you have to pay a fee. I know that Amazon and Azure from Microsoft and Google Cloud are not free, so you have to pay. But depending on the usage, for example, if you share the model and only occasionally one people will click it, then is as good as free, right? So it's really depending on the usage. So if a million people are accessing your model and use the model for inference, then you pay for the usage, right? So for the cloud use, usually you pay a fee, but it is depending on how many people and how long and how much basically computational time you use for the either it's GPU or CPU. The GPU is a lot more expensive than CPUs. So you can, so Charles, if you're interested in deployment, you can check the specific, the Google and Azure, they all have very specific, the cloud use, they have the price tags there. So, it's not expensive unless you develop a ChatGPT, right? That billion people are using that. That'll be a different story. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I do have several questions, but first of all, I want to say that I really like the style or like templates of this PowerPoint, which is very modern and fits the theme of AI. And the first question is about the public URL. At my understanding that it's like the agent of your personal computer, so you must keep your personal computer open. But if you using Colab instead of your local Python, that means when you share your URL, you also need to keep your Colab open and also connected.
So I guess no one knows because we haven't tried, right? Anqi, do you know?
Yeah, I didn't try that, but I can try it later and send you guys an email about how it's going.
Yeah, but I think it's a good question. I was also curious. I don't know what would happen if you use a Colab because Colab is basically on the Google Cloud. So I don't know. So probably you want to try.
Yeah, I will try later.
Yeah, the other thing you could try is the Hugging Face is the first one to adopt Gradio. And you can upload your model. You can, of course, use Hugging Face models, but also upload your own model as well as Gradio to Hugging Face. You can push that to the Hugging Face, so the Hugging Face is going to host that permanently. So as long as Hugging Face exists, it's going to host your Gradio for free.
Yeah, cool. And another question also, considering about the issue of confidentiality. So can we just share the URL to the specific person, like for you to come to our WhatsApp group? I as an admin need to click enroll. If that works for this URL sharing, or just everyone who has the URL, they can access your model.
So so as I try, I send the link to my friends, and she can open that without any thing to do before like open it. But like I also run the code on his computer, so like I'm not sure is there any link between them. I definitely will try this also later.
Yeah, thank you.
It's something that we definitely want to try. Yeah, it's really referred to my first question. A little bit concerned about the confidentiality issues, data privacy. Maybe there's a way to set a password or something. That would be fantastic. So even if you know the web address, you have to put your password before you can access the model. That'd be another thing they might have implemented.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So like I actually never thinking about that, the safety of the code.
Not only your code, is like they have access to your computer, so they can do anything about your computer. That's the scary part. It's not only the model per se. So you have other questions?
Yeah, actually, yes. I have too much question. And the next is about the live update function you have mentioned. That function only like remove the submit button and directly calculate the output, or can like update the code you change, and when people click the URL, they will see the updated model.
Oh, okay, so you do need to run your code again to get a new URL.
Okay, so the live update function is just for remove the submit button.
Kind of like you can put like you can put the input, the thing in the input, and it will just immediately give you the output. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And the last question, because I'm also like exploring about the Power Apps, and Power Apps have different layouts for mobile or tablets. So I'm also curious about the Gradio. Does it need to change the layout? You know, like you class the interface, and does it need to change it, you know, when using the mobile or web page or tablets?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I'm not following.
Yes, just think that when you're using your phone to like doing some interactive, it will be different from you click it on the web. The layout may be different, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Or
Okay.
maybe if you didn't change it, will it be like disorganized? Maybe.
I don't think it will be. I never tried this. I don't think it will be disorganized. Like I think it will shows in a pretty organized way, but like not just same as the web, like the computer web interface. Like
yeah, I think that's the case. I don't know exactly. I'm not familiar with Gradio enough to tell you whether they have that functionality to change the interface based on whether you have a tablet or desktop. But usually, my limited experience is that Gradio is very small in terms of interface. So it has a minimal display, like an input, output, maybe several input and output, either arranged horizontally or I think default is vertically. So the display may not be a big issue. I once tried using my tablet and my phone. It doesn't really make a difference. I think it can still be displayed relatively in the correct format. So maybe it's not a big issue because it's not an entire web page of complicated stuff. It's just a few blocks, very simple blocks.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you very much.
Great questions. Others having any questions or thoughts? So one thing that maybe Anqi later on you could dig into is the block function, right? So here you mainly introduced the interface. So interface you could think as is very much like the pipeline in Hugging Face, right? It's very simple to use with minimal arguments, and you can create a working Gradio example, right? But no, if you have a sophisticated model with multiple inputs, outputs, and you want also, for example, showcase what those outputs or inputs look like, maybe you have a radio button and a few job in selections, and so things could get complicated, right? If you have that kind of complicated model, or it is multimodal, multitask type of model, then to some extent you may want to self-define the interface rather than relying on the default, which is provided by the interface. In that case, you would result to the so-called block function. Block function, definitely you need to write more code because you have to define your interface from the ground up. But it gives you a lot of flexibilities compared to the interface function, which is pretty much a built-in interface. So maybe later on, Anqi, you could dig more into the block function to see what they offer. I haven't really taken a close look, but my understanding is a lot more flexible than the interface function can provide. Okay, so that is any other questions or thoughts? You'll find that helpful. You want to explore more about it? Okay, so if you have no questions, I guess we can end early. It doesn't really matter. No, whenever we have something to discuss, we will stay longer.